Hello everyone, my name is Leo Espada with GoneWithTheWin.com. Welcome back. We've been away for a while as we worked on our new schedules for 2016, as well as really sunk our teeth into our best of 2015 PC games, which was pretty lengthy and detailed, but hopefully you'll gain a lot of information or help make a decision when you're looking at what games to purchase next, maybe some of the gems that were missed from last year. Check it out. It's a pretty good article. But delving right in, we have Bombshell by none other than 3D Realms and Interceptor Entertainment. Some are calling this game the spiritual successor to the Duke Nukem franchise, but in reality, this was to be the next Duke Nukem game. If you've been gaming for the last 10 or 15 years, Duke Nukem is pretty well known. You've heard of it. You've definitely heard of the 12-year hiatus and the disaster that was Duke Nukem Forever. However, Duke Nukem 3D was a very popular, great first-person shooter for its time. It was very irreverent, it was very juvenile, but it had caught on with so many gamers and became an instant PC hit. Now, 3D Realms and Interceptor are comprised of guys who worked on such wonderful games as Duke Nukem 3D, Rise of the Triad, and even Max Payne. After all the legal mess was over, they just wanted to get back to making games. However, they had to rewrite their original game plans and make some significant changes. The first, our lead character is not a flat-top, cigar-smoking, rude alien killer named Duke. It is a woman. Her name is Shelly Harrison, otherwise known as Bombshell. As you can see, she is not that voluptuous. She's not spilling out of her costume. But she is a mean lady, and she will kick some alien booty. Those are pretty significant differences. As well as this is an isometric action game with RPG elements, not a first-person shooter. Now, with those differences in mind, this is still a pretty fun game. So let's jump right in. Here is our opening sequence. And if you remember how Duke Nukem 3D began with the destruction of a Duke ride as he jumped across rooftops blasting pig cops. Well, Shelly just found out that aliens are attacking the White House, and she jumps out of a customized Jeep. As you can see, she has a robotic arm that's special. And oh crap, her ride is gone. Bombshell was made with the Unreal 3 engine. For what it's worth, these developers have squeezed every bit out of it. Has all the bells and whistles, runs the whole gamut between particle effects, lighting, shadowing effects. You can play with them all in the options, as well as throwing in a NVIDIA GameWorks feature called Destruction, which controls the amount of particles, bits that it blow up with an object. At max levels, I found that it tanks my Intel 7 4770 and 4790 and GTX 970 and 960 cards. It would run around 40, sometimes under frames per second. But at the halfway point, I was, at 60 sustained. So it looked pretty good. I left it there. Everything else was set to extreme or ultra. As you can see, it is a good looking game. The highlight is obviously the soundtrack. I love the soundtrack. 90s retro, power rock songs, power ballads, a lone guitar, doing a nice solo in the distance to, create a solemn mood. Great work with the soundtrack and the sound effects with this game. Our first part of the mission is to find General Holloway, who's the commander of the GDF, aka Global Defense Forces. As you can see, they're doing a crappy job of defending the world right now. That's why you need Shelly, man. Shelly is here to save the day, right? Her robotic arm can morph into multiple weapons, 9 of them in total. Right now, as we make our way across the White House lawn, we enter in our first turret sequence. Here we go. Now, as this played out, I immediately asked, why wasn't this a first-person shooter game? You can see the action unfolding, blood gibbs. And first-person games, the action is more in your face. And the way the enemies attack you and behave, it's more akin to a first-person game. When I think of a isometric action RPG, I'm thinking of hunting down items and loot and mixing and matching armor pieces and working on debuffs and things like that for the next level. I'm going into a fire level, let me get ice swords and things like that. Now this game doesn't have that. Let's go talk to Holloway. Here's our man.
Alien force attacked the White House using some kind of wormhole technology.
Some kind of wormhole technology. The tech's called portals.
Most of the outdoor stragglers, but Kamala suggests things aren't going well inside.
Here's one of the downsides. The dialogue is usually very cheesy.
The last intel we received said she'd taken refuge in the safe room. It's hidden behind a portrait. We need you to find it and bring her back.
It's time to paint this White House red.
Most dialogue sequences end with a one-liner from Shelley. Most of those one-liners from Shelley weren't the greatest. Now, as soon as you finish the conversation, more aliens attack, and back to turret mode, which I liked. I mean, it has a little Max Payne feel to it, as well as changes the pace of the combat. Wasn't too many turret scenes, though, in this game. But it's a classic thing. Kind of people tire of it, or it's been done so many times, but I enjoyed it. Now we head back to where we were before, and we're allowed into the White House to save the president, who is a blonde woman with an eye patch, with the stars and stripes on the eye patch, of course. We pick up our first blueprint, the Maxi Gun. All weapons in this game have irreverent names. The Iron Maiden is the one you start with. Now we pick up the Maxi Gun. Here's our screens, and we can upgrade. We just leveled up, so we picked up the Mighty Punch, which I really enjoy. It's a lot more useful than the Power Slide, and it can create a slow motion effect, so you can aim it a little easier. Selling things is a specialty. Now, I don't know. I found these stores useless. I never bought any ammo. There's plenty of free ammo. There's plenty of free items out there. I never used it. Now that we got ourselves situated, we can pick up some grenades, which, as you level them up, get pretty powerful. And we gotta find ourselves a president. This White House mission is great. It's a great intro to the game. You can see all the nice lighting effects and graphic, effects that are going on. However, try to imagine it as a first-person shooter for a moment, especially when you walk in that room, you have enemies to the left and the right. This corridor fight that's going on. It could totally work as a first-person game as well. Now, they decided to go with the isometric view. I found that combat is fun, but it's not very difficult for most of the game. As long as you stay mobile, running through, using your skills, shooting everything, you'll make it. Some of the combat scenes, though, do get tough as you are completely overwhelmed, and some of the bigger enemies are really good at kicking your butt. The shell casings everywhere as she fires her Maxi Gun. Nice touch. Now back to the combat. On my first playthrough, you can only choose normal. There is a new plus mode. However, nothing on normal is incredibly difficult. I might have died 3 or 4 times in 20 hours of playing. Even at its hardest points where the enemies do overwhelm you, it's not that hard to, start over again and using your mobility, just taking them all out. It's not an incredibly difficult game as long as you keep upgrading and using your money wisely. We're coming up on our first cutscene here, and let's watch as we meet Madam President, as well as our game's villain.
Bombshell! Madam President! God!
That new prosthetic of yours must have cost you an arm and just an arm.
Haskell.
I'm glad you recognize the sound of an old friend, Shelley.
Friend isn't exactly the word I'd use.
But only a friend would give you the chance to save your president. The chance to step foot on another world.
And I'll make sure it's the biggest mistake you'll ever make.
You would know something about mistakes, wouldn't you, Shelley?
The professor's back. Jadis Haskell wanted to destroy his Institute for Cybernetic Augmentation. Why? He'd experimented on himself. He didn't want the world to find his weakness. Me? I'll find it anyway.
So there's a small sample of what I mean by campy, bad, dry voice acting and delivery. Now, I don't mind campy and cheesy, as long as you're intentionally being campy and cheesy and throwing some wit. However, this game confuses me. They keep throwing facts and information and serious story elements, I suppose, as if they're trying to make a real story, but moments like these just kill it.
Scanning.
Here's one that I found extremely confusing. Now, at first I didn't know who she was talking to, but Shelly is talking to her arm. Keep in mind, according to the story, she lost her arm years ago in a failed explosion. And now, amidst a crazy alien invasion on a remote alien world, she decides to configure the voice and personality of her longtime arm. What's the point of this moment? I have no idea. What's the point of this scene? I don't know. I don't care. Kind of useless. Either way, either voice is completely irritating. Unfortunately, it doesn't get any better. You are drowned in hours and hours of Kier details, Zeroth details, these aliens that you battle, the GDF that's utterly useless. Suddenly, Shelly will make fun of herself, the story, the plot, and then back to details and facts that are poorly, dryly delivered. All NPCs are badly acted. But anyway, let's throw the story aside. The level design is well done. There's challenges in these level designs because they're so narrow you can easily fall off of them, making combat a little tricky, as you can see. It'll happen a few times. And you have two choices. You can either restart from the checkpoint where you lose a good percentage of your hard-earned KY. Yes, that's the currency. Or you can restart from the beginning of the checkpoint, which you will lose a lot less. You will have to replay some sections. Sort of a penalty system. It's up to you. Now, there's plenty of KY around for everyone. So later on in this game, I just didn't matter. I would just respawn. It's easy to rack up 20 to 30,000 currencies and upgrade what you need to upgrade. Here's what I mean by the swarming enemies. They do come on from all directions. They jetpack around behind you. But for the most part, as I just lost my shields, as long as I remain mobile, the shields recharge pretty quick. Med packs are easy to come by. At 20 hours in the game, I had about 60 med packs I wasn't using. And it's pretty to look at. Now, here's where, again, I'm thinking of an isometric RPG. All this combat, I'm only picking up money and the occasional ammo drops. Could there have been more depth added? Armors, different weapons, different things that you could be looting to just keep your focus on the greater aspect of the game. Since there isn't, you're focused on the combat, which can be a little tedious. Be challenging at times, but for the most part, you're traversing the same areas back and forth sometimes, picking up a key card, picking up a crystal, and then heading back the other way, fighting another horde of enemies. It would have been nice to add some depth to this game, something to tinker with, since we are talking about an isometric game with RPG options. What are the RPG options? Well, you have 9 weapons, as I mentioned. Each has a branching path once you get past the 3rd level. These branching paths offer different abilities, a different focus, but in actuality, they don't change much. I ended up using pretty much the standard attack. For example, the Motherflaka, which is the shotgun, has a couple of alternate firing modes. The one that I chose was a detonation type of alternate fire. Sounded great, but in actuality, when facing enemies, you didn't need it. You was better off using the regular basic shotgun unless you were fighting a boss, and then maybe unload a couple shots of the alternate fire. As far as altering gameplay or having you approach this game from a different perspective because you chose one path or the other, I didn't see it at all. So the RPG choices, as far as weaponry is concerned, which are the only ones that you really have, matter very little. Now, we just leveled up, and when I get a moment, I will adjust my stats. It's 2 skill points for every level that you get, and you can only put them into a couple of categories. I say a couple, it's only a handful. Either your skills or your statistics. Alright, now that we got a moment, let's take a look. I've unlocked 2 abilities out of the 4, Mighty Punch and Power Slide. There's 3 attributes: health, armor, and the energy, which allows you to cast your skills. That's it. 1 or 2 points into these small abilities, that's all you have. The weapons themselves can be upgraded, and as you can see, the branching path there. Now, not all of the upgrades are towards those branching paths. Sometimes they add more ammo capacity, rate of fire, things of that nature to the main attack of the weapon. So leveling up the weapons does make it more powerful. Gets to the point where you're just a juggernaut almost running through this game, but there's not any depth. You can kill faster, but it's not much of a choice. I mean, I'm pretty much putting all my KY into every weapon that I find as soon as I have it, and move on. These executions that were thrown in are kind of awkward. Every once in a while, an enemy will be laying there, and you can press X to execute them on a control pad. Kind of stops combat for a moment. You'll still see enemies around you, and you will execute your foe after, you know, jarring you out of the combat, and then you'll just be thrown right back in. It was an odd decision to leave that in. I'm not sure. It doesn't add anything to the game. I guess it just makes it more visceral, but not necessarily so. Lots changed since Duke Nukem 3D. A lot of what was shocking and, you know, too much violence back then. Again, I was a young teenager back then. It doesn't really apply now. Games have changed so much. This is Disney in compared to what is truly considered visceral or overly violent now. So the executions, didn't really do much. Throwing a grenade into these little acid spewing guys. I have no shield right now, but the explosions are great. Just took out a dozen of them in one go.
You didn't stand a chance.
Now, my shields dropped twice in this little combat sequence. As I mentioned, it looks good, it's pretty. Do I ever feel like I'm in any real danger? No. Now, moving further along, this is about the midway point in the game. The planet is called Zeroth, an ice world. It's beautiful, well done, very detailed level. At this point, I have several of the weapons, about 4 or 5 of them, and the bubble shield, which encases a Shelly bombshell in an electrified field. Any enemies in that field take damage. And I'm trying to hunt through some of the side quests in the game. The side quests and the main quest are pretty much involving go get this and bring it back. Go over here and do this, get this and bring it back. There is some freedom to this. Like, for example, I was a little confused while I was playing this. I have to find a packet of C4 and put it on the ice. That C4, there's only so many in the game, and they can apply to different sub quests. How you use it, it's up to you. You may miss out on some of these sub quests, so it does favor exploration and a patient look through every area of these maps. Now, one of the disheartening things that I ran into, it was on this world. I met a soldier, a statue. It was a warrior statue that asked to find its head, another asked to find its sword. And I actually went through the trouble of walking all over the map and looking for it, and I found it. So I wanted to bring him back to those guys and complete the quest. Sadly, I didn't realize it. I walked through a door, one of the main doors, that takes you to another map entirely. Once you do that, you can't go back. So those quests were lost. So I was kind of bummed out. I wanted to kind of sort of see how they turned out. Now, I did go back and complete other quests, and in the end, all you get is some more experience and some more money. And several of those sub-quests that I completed all ended the same. So there really isn't that much reward for your trouble, so it's a little disheartening in that aspect as well. But it was neat to look through and explore and try to find them, especially since the levels, like I said, are very well done and detailed. The map is not just a given to you. There are circles on the map that indicate where something might be. You do have to get over there and investigate yourself. Sometimes dig through some of the shiny, ethereal background and objects to find a secret jump or something like that. Not too often, but no complaints about the level design overall. As you adventure around, you will pick up primary missions, secondary missions. Primary missions, of course, you have to complete. They will not let you off the map. All the secondaries really are absolutely optional. Now I picked up the C4 and I'm going to use it on these two ice pillars. But remember, we had that other section in the back that required one, so I would have to find some more.
The habit of making things go boom. Didn't go so well last time.
The Zeroth creatures are some kind of a zombie, and the game goes into some explanation that this Dr. Haskell, the main villain, is trying to use him as some sort of defense for his, get this, planet eater, a Star Destroyer type of planet that eats other planets. Not very original, to say the least. But as a combatant, as a world, I thought it was fun enough. Especially with the Titanic ice warriors that come out slamming you with ice hammers, slowing you down. Combat can get pretty chaotic, and that's always appreciated. These awkward executions, I don't know, they were just all standing there, so I just had Shelly execute them one by one. The bosses, at least the first boss was okay. The second boss, which is the world leaders for the Zeroth, are epic. I mean, they're gigantic in form. They were fun to fight. It was worth getting to them, despite the lengthy walking back and forth at times, picking up key crystals or key cards, and then heading all the way back to a door, which it does get a little boring sometimes, just going back and forth, back and forth. The nice visuals, the great soundtrack keep you going. But again, what Bombshell really needs is some depth. Now, if you read the review on our site, you're probably wondering, well, it's a 6 out of 10. Why such a low score? Is it it must be a bad game? No, I don't consider 6 bad necessarily. I think between Zach and I, we've talked about it many times, we're not crazy fans of numerical scores because it's so hard to interpret sometimes. A 6 to me is above average. This is a fun game. But is it an epic game? Is it a great game? No, it doesn't reach that 9, 10 level at all. It needs work. It's a good starting point for 3D Realms. I liked a lot of it. If they could polish, I forget even the story, which needs work, and the voice acting, which was just practically not there. They could build on what is there, which is a great soundtrack, great visuals, smooth controls, add some depth to the RPG elements. I mean, you would have had a much better game, but it's not a bad game. I would definitely recommend it to anyone who likes Duke Nukem, anyone who likes isometric action games, anyone who just wants to kick butt to a great rock soundtrack. It is an above average game. It's not a bad game, which in my opinion would be more of a 3-2-1 game, filled with bugs or unplayable, or just absolutely hard to play, to sit through. No, this is not that kind of game. It's maybe not a blockbuster Titanic 9 out of 10, but it is definitely fun and enjoyable. In the aftermath of the Duke Nukem legal battle with Gearbox, one of the comments that I liked from 3D Realms was they said they just wanted to get back to making fun games, and that's exactly what they did with Bombshell. There is room for improvement. It could have been a lot better for all the reasons that I've already stated. However, it is a fun game, and I look forward to seeing what else comes of 3D Realms and Interceptor's efforts, as well as maybe this IP in the future. Thank you for watching. My name is Leo, and this is Gone with the Wind. As always, for more details and more information, please read our full review that's on our website at www.GoneWithTheWin.com. Thanks again.